All right. All right, brother Khalil, man, we are on. We're on
Let's
the
go.
Speaker
Let's
Truth
get
with
it.
Mark Ross podcast, man. Yeah, yeah, man. I'm here with my guy, brother Khalil Sikander. We to give us a little backstory about Khalil and I. We did a an interview a couple of years ago. Um, I was just getting started with this thing, and I reached out asking for people that want to talk, and my man, he graciously accepted. And we had our little sit down talk, and we've been cool ever since. That's been like what, 3, 4 years?
Yeah, it's crazy how much time flies, man. I think it was right after COVID, like 2021, maybe after that,
Yeah, yeah,
when
yeah, like
when it was kind
2020,
of
twenty
getting
twenty
back
one
into
type
it.
stuff.
I mean, it was still hectic, but everybody was getting back to work. Life was getting crazy.
Yeah,
It was, but then
yeah.
you hit me up, I hit you back, and I was like, let's get this done. Let's talk about what we got to talk about. Let's be real.
Dig it, dig it, man, dig it, dig it. All right, man. Let's get this thing going. And for those who may have questions for Mr. Khalil, please ask as we continue on with our interview. But brother, let the people know who you are, where you're from, and what do you do for a living, man.
All right, yeah, man, no
Break down
doubt.
for us.
As Mark, my brother, said, my name is Khalil Sikander. I'm actually an educator and teacher. I'm actually a basketball coach as well, but I'm also an author and speaker, and I'm a two-time best-selling author as well. And so,
Oh,
I guess I'm a
man.
jack of all trades, I should say. Um, and what I'm about is about giving back. I'm about spreading love. One of my messages that I share with teachers and as I do speak is spreading love and building a culture of love. And the second thing that I do with kids, because I'm a coach and an educator in the high school world, I also teach kids to learn how to have an empire state of mind, is what I call it. I'm from Brooklyn, New York originally. I'm actually a school teacher out in Utah and coach out in Utah. So, but my first 23 years of my life, I grew up and was raised in, the bricks. I was the jungle, you know what I'm saying? And so, and a
Yeah,
lot of my
yeah,
my past experiences has brought me to this point. And I just try to teach people, just spreading love and having a good mindset, because I've experienced the trauma in my life, and that's what we're here to talk about. The
yeah,
life of a PTSD owner, I should say, because I
yeah.
have that issue in my life and something I have to deal with. And so I'm here to talk about that with my brother and talk about some real stuff and some real intellectual
Yeah,
stuff to really make people think
indeed,
about mental health. So I'm
indeed,
happy to
man.
be
And
here, bro.
and yeah, man. I appreciate you, brother. I know you're a busy dude, so I, man, I'm cherishing every moment that we get to talk, man, because we don't do this enough.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
absolutely.
saying? So, um, you said that you were from Brooklyn, right? Now for context, brother Khalil, you are Middle Eastern, correct?
Correct.
You
Absolutely.
are of Middle Eastern descent, and you grew up in Brooklyn.
Yes, sir.
Break that down for us, bro. How did that come to be, man?
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. No doubt, man. Yeah. Unusual 100%. Unusual 100%. But that's what makes my story unique, right? That's what makes
Yeah,
me appreciate
exactly.
it makes me appreciate where I come from and how important that is. Like people
Yeah,
miss the opportunity to understand how important the foundation is, right? Everything starts with the foundation. And when we lose that, we lose sight of that, we kind of lose ourselves in a sense as we get older because our roots aren't grounded, right? Um, and so my background of growing up in Brooklyn, New York, I grew up in an all African American community, right? And I was the only Middle Eastern kid there. I mean, if you saw my school
yeah,
picture, I was the only fair skinned kid in a class full of African American people. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, I fell in love with the culture. I was always taught Black History Month and how important Black history was. I had school assemblies and I saw, the African drums being played and people dancing to African music. Um, and so it just really made me embrace my community even more because I felt so much love in that community. And I know a lot of people, downplay the inner city and how difficult or all the bad thing that comes along with it, but they don't really speak the truth about what good is happening in our communities, because there's a lot of good that happens in our communities that are invisible to a lot of people. And so I grew up in poverty. When it comes to my ethnic background, my father's from Afghanistan, from Kabul, Afghanistan, and my mom is actually Italian and Irish. And I grew up in a single family home. My mom raised four of us by herself. My mom on welfare and all that good stuff. Met my stepfather, who was an alcoholic, had to deal with alcoholism in my home. So I saw a lot of abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse. Luckily, I didn't see too much physical abuse, but that was around, and I always see my mom crying at times due to some things like that. And then I grew up, when I walked outside the home, I had family members who were drug dealers, dealing on the corner. I had to watch myself wherever I went. I mean, just, growing up, I was called Fort Greene, Brooklyn, Clinton Hill, Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. I was kind of in the meat of all that. I mean, I live like 6 blocks away from Biggie Smalls, 6 blocks away from Jay-Z. And when I tell people that, people are like, for real? I'm like, yeah, I used to see Jay-Z in the park all the time. I used to see Little Kim all the time.
Wow.
Like
Wow.
Like that was my environment. And like I said, I'm grateful for it, but at the same time, it's brought me some negativity as well, because of the things I saw. But at the end of the day, I'm grateful for it all. I wouldn't change it for anything. But I've used those lessons that I learned as a child growing up and as a teenager growing up to impact kids in the education world. And not only that, but teachers and whoever I speak with. I just try to share that love and appreciation of what I have been given through that experience and share that with other people.
Now talk about a little bit of your childhood, man, because you said that you grew up as a single parent. What happened between you and your dad? I mean, your mom and your dad.
Yeah. So no, you're good. So again, my mom is actually of the Catholic religion. My father's actually Muslim. And so in the Muslim religion, he's pretty stout, pretty, old schoolish, if you want to call it. And my father had an arranged marriage, so that kind of led to the separation between my mom and my pops. But I still have a good relationship with him. We still talk, but that's kind of the separation that, in his culture, that wasn't allowed. And so that was kind of growing up in a fatherless home. And I mean, I used to see him every once in a while. It wasn't like he was always present, but like I said, that was tough. It was tough having a mom raise 4 boys all by herself, right? And the other part about it is my mom had 4 children with all different pops. So we all have different fathers. And so, like I said, the uniqueness and the detail about all this stuff and the impact all these circumstances bring, to see my mom living through that. And some of that is of her choice, and some of that she didn't know any better, right? Because just the circumstances she grew up in an abusive home. And then that just trickled down to us, right? And then there's somebody has to break that cycle. And luckily, I had the fortitude and the strength to follow a dream and follow a passion. And like I said, basketball brought me out of that because, again, I'm a coach. And so kind of a backstory to that. And that's why I fell in love with the game. And I told myself basketball is going to be my outlet. And basketball was. And I put all my work and effort into that, and it helped change my life to break that cycle that my family still has. Yeah. So.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Cool. I know you mentioned that there were different dads. How did that factor in your mind? Like, this isn't how we should be living. You know what I'm saying? When did it click? Like, something ain't right.
No, it's a great question. Like, as a child, you don't really think about that much, right? But as an adult, I thought about that, right? Like, because when you're a kid, you're in the thick of it. All you're thinking about is having fun, being with your friends, like trying to avoid all the bad things. But because of the environment, it always led you to that, right? But again, for me, I just always, I don't know what exactly I can pinpoint it on, but for some reason, I just always felt a need to want more, right? I just in my mindset for some reason, I just felt like, you know, when I was being abused or whatever the case may be, I would tell myself, this can't be it. This can't be life. There's no way this I'm supposed to feel this way. Like those are the thoughts that kind of processed in my brain when I was a young kid. But I never again, I just growing up in that, it was that way, right? It was that way. I didn't see no other way. But when I fell in
Right.
love with the game of basketball, I felt joy. I felt you know accomplishment. Like when I was feeling that feeling, it changed the mindset of me being at home going, I don't want to feel this way. I want to feel like I feel like when
Mm.
I'm on the basketball court. Like that's the feeling I
Okay.
want to feel. And when I kept getting more of
Okay.
that and more of that, started to pursue it even harder and even harder and even harder. And I would
Yeah.
avoid even
Yeah.
going home. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I would just,
Yeah.
you know, I'd put that to the side and be like, I'm staying out as long as I can so I don't go back in that
And
environment. And
dig
so
it.
that was kind
Dig
of
it.
the
Yeah.
mindset I had as a kid. So if that kind of answers your
Mm.
question.
Yeah. I can understand how that flows too, because I think a lot of us in our generation, when we grew up in single parent environments or hostile environments. I mean, we thank God we had that outlet to go outside and engage in physical activities, versus now where you don't see a lot of that. You don't see a
Mhm.
lot of younger kids embracing being outside, or what I'm saying, engaging in sports and other safe activities, if you will. So I just thank God that we had that outlet to get us out of certain situations, man, because it doesn't just affect you, brother Khalil. I mean, it affects a lot of people, especially in our
Absolutely.
age, at our age bracket, where you know a lot of us we didn't come from two family homes, or we didn't come from parents who made six figures. You know what I'm saying? Some of our we grew up hungry. You did what I'm saying? I mean, it was just there for us.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I respect your outlet, because a lot of people didn't they don't they don't view uh that go get attitude like you did growing up. So
Hmm.
when you started to engage in basketball and in other sports, um when did that take when did it become like, wow, I could really do something with my life through this?
Hmm.
When did that become that thing
So
for you?
I'll share a little story with you. What kind of changed my mindset is actually I was like again I was the only fair skinned kid. I was surrounded by all African American kids, and they were all good at the game. That's the start. Like,
Yeah.
and I was thrown in this fire
Yeah.
with all these guys, and they were all good, and I was okay. I wasn't that great, and so all my homies, all my boys were like, "Hey, come play with our teams. Jump on our." It was kind of like a travel team, but in New York, it's a little different because there's parks everywhere. It wasn't travel ball
Mhm.
like it is nowadays. Like we would just travel throughout New York City and go to different parks and play with each other and play in different tournaments because there was a tournament everywhere. Like if there was a park, there's a tournament in it. So my boys in my neighborhood was like, hey, come join us, come play on our team. So I was like, okay. So I started playing with them, right? And I wasn't that great. And we were playing in this basketball tournament and it was all the way out in Queens. I mean, it took like an hour and a half train ride to get out there. And anyway, the tournament was called Citywide, big Nike basketball tournament. And I was okay again. And we're playing good competition. And we're playing in this game. I'm not doing very hot. I'm struggling, and my mind just isn't where it's supposed to be. Anyway, halftime I came. Coaches just gave us this big speech about we're not playing hard enough. You suck. You're terrible. Whatever the case may be. And he was just getting after us. I remember the whole conversation
Yeah.
because this is a memory that sticks out. Well, I go back in the game. Halftime finishes, and I forget that we switched sides, right? Because at halftime you switch sides, right? So I wasn't even
Right.
thinking. I totally forgot that we needed to switch sides. So there was a foul call. I was standing at the free throw line, and I'm on defense. And if I get the rebound, I'm supposed to go down to the other side. Well, again, I wasn't thinking straight. I was so caught up in I suck. I don't play. I'm not playing very good. Just being made fun of. Anyway, free throw is shot. I get the rebound. As soon as I get the rebound, I just turn, dribble one time, shoot it, hit it off the glass, and I felt like it was the greatest shot ever. And then everyone starts yelling, "Bro, you just shot it in the wrong basket." And I'm
Right,
like, I'm,
right.
I'm like, oh snap! I was totally embarrassed, totally embarrassed.
Oh,
I'm 12.
oh.
Like I'm not 6. I'm not like 7. Like I know the
You
rules. I
know
know what's
better at
going
that age.
on. Right? I'm at that teenage age where it's clowning time now. Like it's clown time. Like you do something like that, boys is after you, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
hour and a half train ride from Queens to Brooklyn, bro. I was getting clowned on this entire time. My boys didn't let me go for an hour and a half, and I was just getting pounded on how I was a circus and how I was just you a scrub, you ain't going nowhere, blah blah blah. That's just getting at me, just hit me in the heart. So an hour and a half of nothing but just clowning on me. And so I went
Right.
home and I was like, do I really want this? Like, do I really, really want this? Is this something I want to chase? Do I ever want that feeling ever again? Right. And then that from that moment, that was my epiphany from that moment on. I was like, okay, I'm never going to experience that feeling again. And so from that point on, I told myself, I'm in the park every day, 4 to 6 hours. I'm just putting in the work. And then I started putting in the work. And then I met my mentor. His name was Mike Sr. And then Mike Sr. put me under his wing. He's from LG Projects. He's one of the greatest basketball minds in New York City. Coach legends. I mean, I just was able to just fall in his lap, basically. And then he took me under his wing and he started teaching me the game, started building some individual skill stuff with me. And then from that point on, I got to my sophomore year in high school. I made varsity as a freshman, but my coach said I couldn't play because I wasn't going to get any time. So I wrecked JV my first year, and then my sophomore year, I started varsity, and then from my sophomore year on, I became a top New York City basketball player, one of the top guards in New York City at the time. This is 1997 and 99. And I just started making a
Okay.
name for myself and just started, hooping and hooping. And it just led to
Mm,
me, getting a JC offer because my grades was bad. Again, that environment kind of held me back. But then I went to JC
yeah,
after JC played D1. Had the ability to play
yeah.
some pro, but I decided to stop and just took a high school head coaching job right off the bat. And then from there, just for the last 20 years, just been on that journey of coaching. So that's kind of the epiphany of how it all worked, man.
Man, I mean, and I have to give you credit for that too, brother, because I think had it have been some kid like now getting clowned for like an hour and a half or something that he did, something bad would have happened because he wouldn't have took that abuse. You dig what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
He would have snapped on some of them kids,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you know. And I mean, and that goes to a whole nother conversation. I won't get into all that, but I have to applaud you for having the wherewithal to, you know, number one, take it, and number two, like see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know what I'm saying? Despite of the fact that you screwed up,
Mm-hmm.
and despite the fact that you had to endure that verbal assault for that long, and instead of, you know, throwing in the towel and giving up, you know, you grabbed the towel. You said, you know what, I'm going to learn from this, and I'm going to improve my game. So you dedicated yourself to get, you know what I'm saying, upgrading your game. And I mean, hey, kudos to you, my guy.
I
Kudos, man,
appreciate
for
that. I
that.
appreciate
But
that.
but yeah, man, yeah. But I want to talk about the trauma for a second, because I want to make sure everybody understands who Khalil is in regards of the PTSD. When did you start to notice, from a mental perspective, that you were dealing with something that was beyond your control?
Um, it happened. So it was let's see, happened in 2013. It was 2013. Yeah. I mean, I again, this is I think PTSD and this mental, illness. I really can't pinpoint exactly. I know
Sure.
I've been dealing with it, but I was always kind of like this experience, like I just talked about when I was a kid. For some reason, I was able to just overcome something pretty quickly. But I think what happens is when it continues to happen over and over again, it starts to catch up
Mm-hmm.
to you, right? It's just a snowball effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I was dealing
Mm-hmm.
with it in little small pieces throughout my entire life. But
Mm-hmm.
then the biggest moment that happened that really took me over the top actually happened in 2019. But I really, really had the biggest kind of breakthrough to understand it was when to look back when I started going through therapy 4 years ago was when I was done dirty at a high school where an administration tried to rip me apart and try to tear my character down and try to ruin me in a community. And these were people that I trusted, people who I called my friends, people who said they had my back, just trustworthy
Yeah.
individuals who I was confidentially telling them things about myself and about what was going on in the certain circumstance that I was in. And then I wound
Mm-hmm.
up losing my job as a coach, and they started doing me dirty and taking classes away from me, trying to make my life miserable. Just everything an educator's supposed to be, they were doing the total opposite of. And so I found myself kind of in a dark cloud, like I didn't know what was going on. And there was times where I was just sitting in my house because I was being done so dirty. I didn't know what to do. And all my mind did was process every bad scenario that was happening at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like every bad scenario, what would happen in the future, or every bad moment that happened before that, where I was in that moment. Like for some reason, it just started cycling and cycling and cycling. And I would just sit and stare out the window for hours at a time. And my wife would come up to me and be like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I just can't stop thinking. I just can't stop wondering why this is happening to
Yeah.
me." Right. And
Right.
then as that moments and as those moments kept coming, and they were coming often and coming like daily, then
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the past of my childhood would start to pop up. All the bad things as a
Mm.
child would start replaying in my mind. And so that's when I started
Okay.
realizing, oh snap, there's something going on, and I don't know how to control this. I don't know how to navigate what's going on with my mind. And so
Yeah.
eventually, you know, I uh I was able to break through again, just like as a kid, I was able to break through again. And then, like I said, in 2019, about 5 years ago, I was in this crisis as an educator again, where I almost lost my entire career. I lost my coaching job. Um, I, I had to basically fight for my teaching license for 2 years. And so every day that I was going through it, it was a what if, because I would never know what was going to happen with my license. And my wife lost her job at the moment. I was going to lose everything, so that everything I built, my entire 20-year teaching career, well, it was about 17 years at that time. That everything I've ever built, I was coaching at the moment. I just built one of the top teams in Utah, one of the top high school teams in the state. I was going out of I was basically on top. I was at the peak of my career, and it all came tumbling down, and I found myself buried in the mud like an avalanche, just buried in the snow and didn't know what to do, which direction to go. I was suffocating basically. And so
Mm-hmm.
from that moment on, my life just started to spiral down, and I got into a dark place where, suicide was at the front of my mind. Like I came that close. Like I didn't plan it, but I was thinking about it every day. Like I'm done. I can't do this no more. And that
Yeah.
PTSD, led to those thoughts and that darkness
Yeah.
and that ugliness that a person that has PTSD that people don't understand started to come out.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
anger, the the anxiety, the depression, the just all the things that just compile your thoughts. They were there, and I had no positivity in my thought process whatsoever. And luckily,
Yeah.
I finally made that breakthrough again and started to get help and go to therapy. And then once I went to therapy, it slowed it down, it helped it, but it never goes away. It never goes away. it's the thing I'm
Correct.
living with for the rest of my life, unfortunately.
Correct.
Can you overcome it? I don't know if the word to overcome really is true,
Yeah. Yeah.
but can you manage it? That's basically what I think living with PTSD is managing it
Mm-hmm.
daily, and
Mm-hmm.
building a mind that can be strong, but at the same time know
Yeah.
when it comes, because you just don't know when it's coming, when those memories come. Just in
Sure.
that moment, how to dictate your mind into the right pathway to think in a positive mindset. And people who don't understand this illness will never understand unless you're sitting in that seat, right?
Mm.
I'm kind of talking a lot here, but I just kind of wanted to go into detail
I
because
mean,
there's a
you
lot
good,
of
brother.
people
You
out
good.
there. There's a lot of people out there when it comes to PTSD, or people that say, life is just a choice, right? But I don't get to choose my thought process when it comes up. Right? I don't get to choose
Amen to
that,
that.
right?
Mm-mm. It
And
just
so when
comes.
people
It
say,
comes.
right, it comes. I do have a choice in
Yes.
how to deal with it, but I don't have a choice
Correct.
in how the mind works and deals with itself, right? Because it's going to
Correct.
do it whatever it wants
Correct.
on its own. I kind of make an
Indeed.
analogy when I talk about PTSD sometimes, like your mind is actually a child, right? It's actually a child, because when you're teaching a child something, you're giving it information, you're giving it what it needs, you're teaching it lessons, right? But your mind's going to act up just like a child, because you have no control over the child sometimes. The child's just going to act up when it wants to act up because it's trying to learn something, it's trying to do something. It's going to do something out of the ordinary that you didn't think was going to happen, like our children do. And you're trying to teach it to behave in the right way, in the right manner, right? And that's what I'm doing with my mind, right? Even though it's grown and it's mature, whatever the case may be, it's still a child, still trying to learn and adapt to what's given to it in its environment. And that's where I am in my life. And the environment I'm in, I got to adapt to whatever comes my way. And when something else negative happens in my life, I got to relearn again, so I don't go back to that same thought process that I had in the past. And so
Mhm.
that's PTSD in my eyes, and how I deal with it and how
Yes,
I
sir.
try to navigate it, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir. It does. It does. Because for me, it's like I always tell people, it's like, imagine your brain is like a light switch and you turn it on. And when it's on, anything goes, especially in your
Mm-hmm.
brain. You can't
Mm-hmm.
control what comes in your brain, but you do have some control of how you deal with it. But the problem, though, is that when the light switch is on, it doesn't come off.
Yes, sir.
So you're
Mm-hmm.
still thinking. It's the
Yep.
thoughts are still rambling. I mean, you got fleeting thoughts coming in and out, in and out, in and out, and the switch is on.
Mm-hmm.
It's not off.
Yeah,
Your
for
switch is
sure.
on,
Mm-hmm.
still on. It's stuck
Yes, sir.
on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got this going on, this circle of thoughts. And you know what I'm saying? And a lot of the thoughts that we have, it's just made up stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still thoughts. And we still
Yep.
have to process it,
Yep.
regardless if it's inaccurate or not. We just
Yep.
have to
Mm-hmm.
process what's going on in our heads. And you know what I'm saying? And that becomes very overwhelming,
Mm-hmm.
very overwhelming. And it makes you erratic,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right? And so I had to go to therapy to learn what some of my triggers were and how to turn my switch off.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You dig what I'm saying? Now, there's times where the switch comes on itself, and I can feel myself going through that, you know, that racing thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
paradigm. And it's crazy because I can feel myself going somewhere where I shouldn't be going. So I'm like, oh, I have to catch myself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I
Mm-hmm.
have to just take a breather, step back, and just be like, wait a minute. You know, I I know that where my head was going shouldn't have been going there.
Mm-hmm.
So let me turn this switch off, take a breather,
Yeah.
and get back to living normal
Yeah.
life. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? Because that's how it works on me.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I can describe it for myself. Because, like I said, once the light switch is on, I can't turn it off.
Yeah.
I can't turn it off like right away. I have to catch
Mm-hmm.
myself before it gets to that point where the light is just on. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So um
Yeah.
w- we just have, and you mentioned something about learning how to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, yeah, I had to learn how to I had to learn to admit that I had something that's going on beyond my control, brother. And number two, I had to learn how to understand when I get when my mind starts to go there, I have to catch myself
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because if I don't, I'm going to isolate myself from everybody because I have to get these thoughts out of my head,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't be around people and I can't be around noise when my thoughts are racing. I have to
Yeah.
be somewhere quiet and I have to let this calm down.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I understand your approach to PTSD, brother, and thank you for sharing that because people think that it's a joke,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not.
No. Mm-mm. No.
Not at all.
No. No.
This this,
Absolutely.
this is real.
I'm with you.
This is real.
It's exactly
This is real.
like I said, and I tell people this all the time. Like, unless this is in any world that you live in, if you don't experience it, you can't understand it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's the
Mm-hmm.
that's the reality. Is like, when it comes to mental health, like until you go through a crisis in your life and it's really traumatizing, right? You can't empathize with someone. That's just my humble opinion. You can show some sympathy, but when it comes to empathy, which are the two separate things, like sitting with someone and really, you know, being side by side with them and really feeling the feelings that a person has when they're going through something, like I like until that moment hits you, you don't really how do I describe this? You don't really dig deep into someone's heart when it comes to that type of stuff, right? I don't, like, for instance, I can give you this example. I don't know understand how it is to live in an African American's body. I don't know what it's like for you to go and live your life the way you guys live your life, to do what you have to do whenever you get stopped by the police, right? I don't know what that's like. I don't know what that. I have no idea what that experience is and the nervousness that someone has when that happens. But what I can tell you is, as an Afghani American, I can tell you when I go to the airport and I'm searched every time, how it feels to feel like I'm a terrorist every time I walk into an airport, right? So I can
Yeah.
empathize with my brother because I can understand a certain situation. I may not be in the same circumstance, but I can feel your pain and feel your emotion because we are kind of on the same
Mm-hmm.
wavelength when it comes to the abuse that we get, right? And until people
Yes, sir.
understand that wavelength, right, they don't see
Yes.
mental health as that. You know what I'm saying? And so, um, and we got to break that stigma, and that's what I try to do with kids, and I try to teach kids.
Mm-hmm.
They're going through whatever they're going through, but when you try to build that empire state of mind, and when you try to use these tools that I give them to build that, they can understand that aspect of life, and they can relate to each other because they're all going through something, and they're just so afraid of each other because they fear what they don't
Yeah.
understand, because their color's different,
Yeah.
because their culture's different. And that's, again,
Mm.
when we don't bring that together and we don't help kids at a young age understand it, that's why we have so much hate and so much animosity towards each other, because that's what happens when there's not an understanding of a human being, right? And
Yeah.
so that's the
Big.
same thing with any mental illness or with any, racially biased or stereotypical thing we do out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Uh, Speaking of that, I want to get into your move to Utah because you're currently in Utah.
Yes,
That's a
sir.
perfect segue, sir. Perfect segue. Um, what made you move to Utah anyway?
So yeah, so again, basketball took me on this journey. I actually played junior college in Colorado at a junior college called Colorado Northwestern Community College in the middle of nowhere. Um, I got a college
Right.
scholarship out here, and out in Colorado, I told my mom and I told my mentor, Mike Senior. I just said, I got to get away from home. If I stay
Mm.
home, if I stay home, I'm just gonna keep going down the wrong path because I was getting to the drugs, I was smoking weed, I was drinking alcohol, like I was
Oh
becoming a
man.
dude that was gonna be on the block, but basically, right,
Yeah.
I was gonna be one of those
Yeah.
dudes that goes, he could have, right, because I was getting into the
Yeah.
wrong crowd because again, the trauma that I was seeing every day, the trauma I was seeing at home, like you try to escape it, right? And in our environment, how
Mhm.
do you escape it? You escape it by being with the homies, doing what they do, trying to make ends meet
They
by
do.
putting money in your pocket, by slinging,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
that type of stuff, right? And
Trying to fit in.
exactly, trying to be a part of the
Yeah.
club. And
Yeah.
I told my mentor and I told my moms I gotta go as far away as possible. I said I don't know where I'm going, but I gotta bounce. I gotta get out. And so my mentor said I got a school for you. Let's if you want it, you take it, go get it. And I'm like, all right, I'm out. So I got the
Mm.
scholarship, just took off. I went to this small town called Rangeley, Colorado, had one street light in it. Like literally like one street light. I went from the
Yeah.
concrete
Yeah.
jungle
Yeah.
where there's a light on
Yeah.
every inch of the block to one street
Right.
light and mountains everywhere. And it was
Wow.
crazy. I got homesick when I first got
Wow.
there.
I'm sure you
I, I,
did.
I walked out of my dorm room and I looked around and I was like, because I got there at night, I didn't see that it was all mountains, and then I thought it was going to be a cool city. This is when the internet wasn't around, so I didn't have the internet. I didn't know what I was getting myself
Yeah.
into. And then I woke up in
Yeah.
the morning and looked around and I saw nothing but mountains. And I was like, yo, what am I doing? What am I doing? And I called my mom's up and I said, Mom, like, I'm coming home. She's like, sorry, you ain't coming home. I got no money for no plane ticket. You stuck. And then so
Mm.
then that was how that went. And then I played 2 years there. And then after 2 years there, I was able to get picked up by a school called Southern Utah University. And me and my wife was dating at the time, and so we were college sweethearts, and so we got married pretty young. I was 20, she was 21, and and then that's history. And then we just went to school together. My wife played college softball actually, and we just pursued our dreams, and
Mm.
and it all worked out. I guess and I finished my career, got my degree, and as soon as I got my degree, became a teacher, and that's all she wrote. And now I'm 20 years in. So still pushing no matter what.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff, brother. Man. So what did you experience since your time in Utah? How has that been from a person of your descent?
Do you want the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yeah, I
So
want
help me God. Do you want that?
I want that, bro.
uh,
Yeah, yeah,
honestly,
yeah.
I
Come on,
mean,
come on.
again,
Tell it,
I,
tell it, bro.
I will. I'm a New Yorker. I'm blunt. I'm straight to the point. Like I thought, like when I moved here at first, it was really good. I thought, man, this is a good place. I, and I'm not saying there's a lot of bad here. Like it's a safe environment, but the physical aspect of this place is really beautiful. Don't get me wrong. This is pristine
Yeah,
country. The country is
yeah,
pristine. And there's a lot of good people here. I'm not knocking every person here, but the culture here is really it's dynamic. It's dynamic in a religious sense, and I know a lot of people know that Utah is known for Mormons. I'm actually of that religion. I don't practice it like I used to practice it, because there's just a lot of things that are going on in my personal life when it comes to religious, culture and how it's affect my PTSD and how I've been treated, not just
mm,
um, not just educationally as a school teacher and how they treat teachers and how they disrespect teachers here, but also on a racially driven environment where there isn't a lot of diversity here. And so when there's diversity seen, it's not treated with respect. And so the truth is, this is a hard place to live for me. And because of my background, and because I'm from New York too, and because of the way I handle myself, in a sense, because I'm a blunt person, I'm a truth teller. I hold my emotions on my sleeve. People know how I am, how I talk. I talk different, I act different, I walk different.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't like that here, because that's just not the culture that, is accepted. And so it's been
Yeah.
really, really hard. And I'll give you a perfect example. I'll share a story that had happened as a school teacher. Maybe I told you this the last interview that we had together, when I was in a school meeting, and I was in what is called as a PLC, professional learning community. All of our teachers in my PE department, my physical education department, there was about 6 or 7 of us. And they brought in a board member of the school district into our meeting to introduce herself to all of our colleagues. And the assistant principal was there, and the assistant principal got to me and started to introduce me and said, "Hey, this is my Middle Eastern brother. This is Coach Sikander. He's an awesome dude, one of the best coaches we got in the school." And he brought up Middle Eastern, which is fine. It wasn't a big deal to me. I am Middle Eastern, and I accept that. I'm proud of being Middle Eastern. Ain't nothing wrong with that. I'm proud of my father's heritage. Like, it
Not at
is
all.
who I am.
Not at all.
It took me
Yeah.
a long
Yeah.
time to accept that, but the reality is I
Mm-hmm.
have to own that, and I have to own that identity. And it's took me a
Mm-hmm.
while to understand that. Again, back to that foundation piece that we spoke on earlier, that's really helped my mental health. But he gets to me and he says that, and then the board member jumps in, and says, "Oh yeah, I know people that look like you." She's like, "You're a terrorist." And I sat there, I was like, "What?" Like, she
What?
said, "You're a terrorist." She's like, I tell my family, and I tell people when they go to the airport to look out for people that look like you. Straight to my face. And I was like, did I just listen to
Oh,
that? And I just went blank. I didn't even say anything. I didn't say a word. I just said, "Thank
yeah.
you." Like, I was like, whatever. Like, it is what
Yeah.
it is. But you did that in a professional environment in front of all my colleagues, and all my colleagues, when they heard it, was like in shock, in awe. Right. And it's like, who gives you the audacity to say something like that? You don't even know who I am. You don't even know where I come from. You don't know nothing about me. And that's the first impression that you have of me, because someone called me Middle Eastern. Right. And so, and then on top of that, they asked this lady to apologize to me in a few weeks. And I said, "I don't want an apology." I'm like, "I don't need an apology. I'm good. Nothing's going to change my mind on how I see this." And they said, "No, she needs
Right.
it. She needs to apologize to you." And and they allow her to come back, and then she comes back, and then she comes back with pictures of a trip she went on in the Middle East, in Jerusalem, and went around the room and said, "Look, I love people that look like you." And I'm like, "I don't look like nobody in that picture. Like, why are you bringing that in
Right.
here?" And I'm
Right.
just like, and so, and so that's kind of the experience that I had. And like I said, I've experienced that in church as well. Um, and it's just kind of ripped me apart. Like I said, it's kind of torn me down a whole bunch. But I've been able to just put my foot forward, just because I've been, again, back to my foundation. And that's why I do what I do when I teach kids and when I teach children. My roots is from Brooklyn, New York. And so anytime I think about something that's going hard like that, something difficult like that, I think about my foundation. I think about what I was taught when I was a young kid by my elementary school teachers, about my junior high school teachers, about respect, how to treat other cultures with respect, how to look at different people and see that they got good inside them. Like when I talk about food, like how I miss the diversity, and how I used to be able to try different types of food, and what they bring to society because of the food that they make. Like the Chinese restaurants in my neighborhood were off the chain. Like, their Chinese food is so good that brought our community together. right? Everybody went to the
Yeah.
Chinese spot to go get some chicken wings and fried rice with ketchup on them and duck sauce on the fried rice. Like we all did it. It didn't matter if you were
Duck
black,
sauce.
white. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. Everybody in the hood knew you go to Cum Cow restaurant, it's gonna be 10,000 people in line waiting for food, and it brings us all together.
Mm,
We're all just chilling and enjoying good food,
dig
right?
it.
And so I
Yeah.
always have to go back to my foundation of who I am. And when I go back to my
Hmm.
foundation of who I am and where I can treat people better, and I can overcome my challenges a lot easier because I was taught these important lessons that's what life is about. And
Hmm.
when I get back to that, life for me becomes happier. I find joy in that, and not allow that negativity
Indeed.
to detract from what my purpose is here on this earth, whatever that may be.
Hmm.
Um, and so
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
how it works for me, bro. Like those are the
Indeed.
experiences just make me keep going harder and harder.
Good, good, good deal. What are your triggers?
Whew. I'm gonna be real with you. Basketball is one of my biggest triggers, unfortunately. Um,
Really?
Not for real. Like it's a gift and a curse. I'll be real with you.
Mm.
Basketball is a gift and a curse, and the reason being is because of my experience here in Utah when it comes to basketball. Like my mentors growing up that taught me basketball, my mentor Mike Senior and my AAU coach Bill Calhoun, two African Americans who could call me the mother effer. I respect them with all of my heart. I could call those dudes my popses right now. Like I look at them as my father figures, and they've cursed me out. They've yelled at me. They've 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 said I've sucked. They said you garbage. They've said so many things to me about how bad I was at basketball. But at the end of the day, they were always truthful and straight to me. But at the end of the day, they would look me in the eye, and you can tell that they love me. At the end of the day,
Mm.
they poured everything that they had into me, right? And so when basketball here and the environment that I've been placed in and the experiences that I have in basketball had led to my PTSD even getting harder and harder because when I walk into a gym, and again, I'm not trying to be arrogant here. I just want to make sure the audience knows I'm not an arrogant person
Yeah.
whatsoever, but I'm pretty
Yeah.
damn
Yeah.
good at what I do out here. Like I'm one of the best coaches
Hmm.
out here, and I know that for a fact. Um,
Hmm.
Anything I touch out here, anytime it's basketball, I make it rise. I make it
Indeed.
rise. I put it on the map. I've done it with two basketball programs in high school. I've done it in the youth
Hmm.
programs here. Anytime I touch it, when it comes to basketball, I'm it. I'm it, and I'm not being arrogant about that. You can ask people about
Hmm.
my work. My work that I put
It
out here is stellar.
speaks for itself.
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
don't go out and tell people about it. I'm
Yeah.
not on the internet posting stuff. I'm not, but when they walk into my gym, they know what I'm about. They know I'm real. They know this is different basketball in Utah. This is different. And that's what separates me is
Hmm.
because I'm different than what they do out here. So the hate because of the success is is nasty. It's nasty. It's nasty in high school. They will get you
Mm.
fired in high school faster than you can say fired here. Like
Really?
it's that bad, and it's that bad everywhere. It's starting to get that bad everywhere else. Um, they will ruin you before you even have a chance to even be ruined. Like that's how much hate comes with the territory because again,
Wow.
the culture. Um, it's almost I don't again. I'm not putting this on everybody, but it's like a one up culture here. Everything's a one up. Everything's a one up. Everything's a
Mm.
one up, right? And so if you're not that one up,
Mhm.
you got to do something to get that to that one up. And
Yeah.
and it's sucky. And I've been on the bad end of that one up uh, seems like every 3 to 5 years. Like I'm right now in a one
Mm.
up right now, like because of a choice I
Are you?
made with my daughter. My daughter is a really, really good basketball player. She's just been asked to play on the Adidas circuit, which is one of the top circuits in the country. It's Nike and Adidas. My oldest daughter, decided to play on that circuit because she's going to be playing in front of college coaches. Well, because of that situation, I have four daughters in this program. They told me, well, since your older daughter isn't playing with us no more. You can't coach and your kids can't be in our program. So my 8-year-old daughter has to suffer because my oldest daughter wants to go play college basketball and she wants to be seen by college coaches. So my 8-year-old, you're gonna leave my 8-year-old hanging who has nothing to do with that decision, and she's not affecting nobody, right? And so my
Right.
entire family is now affected. So now I'm starting from scratch again, like I did 4 years ago when I lost my job as a high school head
Yeah.
coach. Like, so again, I'm at
Right.
the bottom again, and I got to start all over and do it all over again. I've done that 4 to 5 times since I've lived in Utah.
You had to start over, all over again.
All over again 4 times while I've lived in Utah. So in my 20 years, every 5 years, I've had to go from running a program to going to the bottom,
Right.
running a program, going to the bottom, running a program, running to the bottom. So I've just been going like that my entire career since I've been in Utah. Like that's the environment I've been in. And so when you talk about my experience in Utah, that's my experience in Utah. Now, again, is that for everybody? Everybody hasn't experienced that, I'm quite sure. But for my experience from being a minority, I know a lot has to do with some of that. And I know a lot has to do with that because I'm an outsider from somewhere else,
Yeah.
implanting myself in Utah and making a name for myself because I'm good at what I do. Right. And so that's my trigger.
What makes you?
That's my trigger.
That's a big trigger then. Any other triggers?
Let's see. For the most part, basketball would be my number one trigger. My other trigger would be finances. Finances is a big trigger for me. Growing up in poverty, like for instance, when you live in month to month, right? When you live in month to month, or when you ain't got no heat, when you ain't got no lights, and you see your mom struggling, you see the struggle in her face, you see what are we gonna do tomorrow? She's busting her butt trying to, make ends meet. We were having leftovers for 3-4 days in a row. Like, and I know people out there probably had it worse than me. I'm not gonna sit here and say, my life was worse than anybody else's, because it's not. But when I'm in that mode with my finances, in a situation right now I am, it seems like I still got food on my table. I still got a house. I got a nice house. I'm blessed. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm blessed. But when I look at my checkbook or when I look at my account and I see it in the red, bro,
man.
My back goes against the wall, and I'm like, this don't feel right. This don't feel good.
It don't
and
feel
I get
right.
angry. I get anxiety. I get frustrated. I lash out. Like, those are tough. It's tough for me. So those would be my 2 biggest things for me is finances and basketball.
I can relate to that. I can definitely relate to that, man. I'm the same way with you, man. So you ever thought about leaving Utah?
Many of occasions, but my wife's from here, so I sacrifice for her because like her family's here, but she's seen the toll it's taken on me, and she's finally in the last couple of years is like, I think it's time for me to move. I think it's time for me to really see what life is like outside of Utah. Because she's been, like I said, she's been very supportive in this whole journey. And like I said, to be honest, without going into the detail, a lot of what's happened in the last 5 years has something to do with some of her choices that have put me where I'm at. And on this journey as a husband and as a father, I've tried to be forgiving. I've trying to make sure that, to give other people second chances and things of that nature, for the benefit of keeping my family and my kids in a home with a mother and father. And again, through grace of God, give me the strength to forgive people for what their choices were, because no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I am. I've made my mistakes in my life. I've been a bad husband on occasions. And so that's the journey that I've been on. And at some point, I would hope we move sometime and change the scenery and change the environment. One, for her, and two, for my kids. My kids need to see something different besides what Utah brings to the table, because I know there's a lot more out there than, you know, just Utah. And I need my kids to see that. I want them to see
Yeah.
some of what I encountered when I was a kid. And I'm not saying go back to the hood and live in the hood, but, you know, being in an environment where there's a big city, where there's diversity and things of that nature, really gives you a different perspective of what life is like outside of Utah. Because the reality is, a lot of these people don't experience. Again, I shouldn't be. I'm not trying to be rude, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but it is pretty nice living here, and you don't have to experience a lot of what inner city people have to deal with when it comes to the circumstances they live in. And again, I'm not saying they don't have any troubles, because I work with kids from really good homes, and they have their struggles. Their parents might be on prescription pills, right? They might be going through divorce. They might be, you know, doing things they're not supposed to. I know that is happening. It happens everywhere, you know. And so I worked at a high school that half the population in the school was from divorced families, 50%, right? And so they're going through their stuff. It's difficult for all of us, and I guess, you know, but from my personal experience, for me, I need change. You know, change will help time.
Yeah. So you are an author now. You say you wrote some bestsellers.
Well, yeah, I don't know what bestseller means these days, man. Everybody's a bestseller, so it's just one of those things that's on the list, I guess.
Yeah. So what book? What did you write, and what was it about?
So there are two co-authored books. I can actually show them to you. I'm not into that whole, you know, show you who I am. Like, so yeah, there's one right here, and the other right here. So it's on my bookshelf, because I try to look at the bookshelf and see the authors that I sit by. So here's my first one. If you can see it, hope it's a little bit backwards, but yep, The Joy of Work. So it's a co-author book. So my name is on the back right there, chapter 11, if you can see it.
Yep.
So that one, and then this one, it's called One Habit of the World's Greatest Leaders. So I'm in that book as well. And so those are the two books that are bestsellers that I was a part of. And so, yeah, man, writing to me it was one of those gifts, I guess. It just came out of the blue, honestly. Like, I never wrote when I was little, but when I started going to therapy, they told me to start writing in a journal. So I started writing in a journal and just getting my thoughts out. And then I had, you know, and I just was reading it and reading it over, and I'm like, oh man, I got some interesting, you know, thoughts and some interesting points here. And I had my wife start reading some of it, and she's like, oh, you actually do pretty good. I'm like, I guess. And so with that, I was like, you know what, let me reach out to people and see what I could do and try to, you know, maybe make something of this. And so found two companies that were doing co-author books and wanted to kind of bump up my credibility as a speaker. And so got that done. And then as I was just sitting in COVID too, I wrote a book on culture and education. It's called Spread Love is the Brooklyn Way. 5 ways to build a culture of love in schools. I haven't got that one published yet, but I'm working on that. That's the next thing. And then my other book that I wrote in the last year or two, I call it The Empire State of Mind. It's called How to Handle the Rock, because I'm from Brooklyn, New York. New York City is called the Rock. And I also play basketball. And so the basketball we call the Rock too. And so Empire State of Mind, How to Handle the Rock, 5 ways to become a mentally healthy student athlete. And so it's just been a crazy journey. I don't know when those will come out. It's not my time, it's God's time. And I'm just trying to, you know, make it happen when it needs to happen. So it's basically what I'm trying to do when it comes to this author stuff. So
How often do you go to speaking engagements?
So right now I've kind of slowed down, but last year I went to like 6 or 7. I was doing like teacher conferences, and this year I've only done this year coming up I'm probably only gonna get to like 3 or 4 because I just been invested in my kids right now, man. Like my oldest daughter's in high school and she's a really good basketball player, and I've got to put some of my time aside so I can kind of develop her skills because I'm basically a trainer in a sense, and I ain't paying nobody
Hmm.
$150 an hour to go train my kid when I can do it myself. Because that's what people are
Yeah,
charging
yeah,
these days when it comes to training kids in basketball. So I'm just putting
yeah.
my work in my kids. My ninth grader is really, really good. She's one of the top guards in Utah as a freshman. And then my eighth grader is really good too. She's going to be in that same type of world. And so I'm just trying to invest my time in her. I'm still doing my thing. I'm still writing and doing that stuff, but I'm just trying to prepare them. My job as a father first. I gotta put that priority first, and so that's what I'm doing right now. I gotta make sure they're taken care of, and so that's what I'm doing.
Indeed, brother. Indeed, indeed. How old are your kids?
So my oldest is 15. My second is turning 14 in February. I got a third. My third is 11. She'll be 12 in April. And then I got a fourth who's 8, and she's going to turn 9 in March. And I got all girls, so I'm like Kobe Bryant. I got all girls. I'm a girl dad.
Proud papa.
I am. I wanted a boy, but I got blessed with 4, and those 4 girls equal one boy.
Right, right. That's all right. That's all right, man. They blessings anyway. You dig what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. They're
Yeah,
all
man.
healthy. They're all
Yeah.
healthy, and they're great kids. I'm pretty
Dig it,
blessed.
man. Dig it. So what's next on your list of things to do for your life, Brother Khalil?
So, because of this whole thing that I'm in right now, I'm actually going to start my own basketball youth program here pretty soon. So that's next on the list. I'm going to build my own business when it comes to the basketball
Mhm.
world. Again, I'm going to try to
Yeah,
get those 2 books published. Um,
yeah.
and once I get those 2 published, I'll probably start, going out and speaking more. I'm really just really hammering, culture and mental health is, I think, education in general in the school world. Those are the 2 most important intangibles schools need now and forever, in my opinion. The better your culture, the better people's mental health, the better off your
Indeed.
teachers will be, the better off your students will be, the better cohesion your
Mhm.
teachers will have, the better cohesion your students will have. Um,
Mhm.
and that's where I'm at, man. That's where I'm at. I mean, I'm 40. I'm gonna be 43 this year. I'm not that old. I'm still
Young
plugging
dude,
along. I'm
man.
just still trying to stay in shape. I box, stay physically healthy, and make sure to get all this anger out of my brain. And so I
Dig it,
box
man.
3 to 4 times a week, and so I staying physically active because that's one thing that does help with PTSD is being
Mhm.
physically active and getting all that
Indeed.
frustration and depression and anxiety out,
Yes, sir.
and
Yes, sir.
and
Yes,
so
sir.
just staying physically and mentally healthy is the key for me.
Yes, sir.
And if I'm that,
Yes, sir.
anything is possible for any of us.
Amen, brother. Well, I'll tell you, man, if you need some help, man, you know what I'm saying, with people that, to speak about mental health, man, I got your back, brother.
You let me know.
Mhm.
Point me in the right direction, my guy. I told you I'm coming
Hey,
to Milwaukee. I told you already. When I get that chance, I'm there. We're gonna sit down and talk.
yeah, when you make that move, let me know. Like I said, I mean, hey, if you need some help with anything, man, I'm here for you too, brother.
Absolutely.
I
Same
got you.
here. Same here.
Yeah,
Same here.
yeah, yeah.
We
So
brothers from another, and we haven't even met each other in person. I can't wait till we
I
meet each
know,
other in
right?
person.
I can't, man. Listen, I'm looking forward to that, bro. I'm looking forward to that, man. I've never been to Utah, but I, I will travel to Utah to meet you, bro.
I appreciate it.
I really
I'm
would.
same here. Like I said, Milwaukee is a beautiful city, man. I wish I'd have stopped. I wish I'd have been able to just drop, but I was working so fast, I didn't even have time. I didn't even have
Yeah.
time to think, bro.
So one last thing, man. If you had if you had the chance to, I guess, talk to somebody about going through, you know, mental health issues and whatnot, and being able to uh survive through it all. I mean, what advice could you give to somebody? What advice would you say to somebody right now who's going through to help them get through their episode or whatever?
Yeah, my advice is to not be afraid to talk. That'd be my first initial, you know, thought to anyone who's struggling when it comes to mental instability is you have to open up your mouth. Someone said to me the other day when it came to food again, because I'm a foodie, it's like closed mouths don't get fed.
Dig it.
Well, it's the same in mental health. Closed mouths don't get help.
Yep.
So if you keep your mouth closed, no one's going to know you're suffering. No one's going to know that you need help. No one's going to be willing to extend their hand and say, "Hey, I got you," like God has. He puts his hand out for you and he grabs you and say, "Come with me. Come with me. I got you. Well, let's go get you help. What do you need? You want to go sit down and talk? You just want to go sit down and vent? Hey, let's go to dinner. Let's sit down and just have a conversation of where you at." Like that's all what most people want is just to be heard. Right? They just want someone to listen. We're just so quick to talk to somebody back to them and just go like this. But no one's allowed to do it, and no one sits and does this and just let them go. Right? People with mental health issues, that's what they need. They need this. They just need someone to just look at them in the face and go, "I hear you, brother. I hear you, sister.
Yeah.
Talk to me. What can I do to help?" Like just like what you just said. Hey, I'm here for you. Just that alone just shows that you care. And when someone shows they care, they're willing to do what it takes to overcome it. They're willing to go get the help that they need. It may be hard, but eventually they're going to come back to you and go, "I need you. I need you. I want you."
Yeah.
Right. And so that would be my first advice is that. And then my second thing is there's too many people that love you. There's too many people that love you. If you're struggling, there's too many people that love you to let you go through what you're going through. And so those would be my first two things is like, you may not think anyone loves you or cares for you, but those two things alone can help someone who's going through crisis.
Indeed. Indeed. Brother, it's been a pleasure, man.
Always.
It's been a good pleasure to talk to you once again. And I mean, we've, like you said, we've never met face to face, but I'm looking forward to that day. I'm looking forward to that day, brother.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Man, how can people reach you?
So you can hit me up. I'm actually a school teacher. You can hit me up. Well, I'll give you my email address, but I won't give you my. So you can hit me up on Instagram, Khalil BK Love. That's my Instagram handle. And the same thing on Facebook. You can hit me on Facebook, Khalil. My nickname is Putty. That's my nickname. I do I don't really do a lot on Facebook. That's more for my family because that's how I stay connected. Instagram's more to do the content for the the teacher stuff and things of that nature. But Khalil Sikander on Facebook, you can catch me on there. There are two of us. My dad is the same name as mine, so I'm a junior. So just make sure you put the one that's Putty. Putty's the nickname, and so that's how you can contact me. I love to speak to kids. I love to speak to teachers, but I'll speak to anybody who's dealing with mental health issues. I'm here as an advocate for it. So I want to see people thrive. I don't want to see people just survive no more. I've been surviving. Me and you, brother, we understand surviving. Let's live a world of thriving as best we can. Even if you are surviving, you can still thrive. You know what I'm saying?
Amen, brother. Yes, sir. Amen to that. Amen to that. Man, well, bro, it's been a pleasure. It's been real.
Absolutely.
Much love to you, man. Like I said, we haven't never met, but I got nothing but love and respect for you, brother.
Same
And I'm
here.
looking very forward to that day, man, that we can, shake hands and break bread, man. I mean,
Let's do it.
I'm looking very forward to that.
Let's do it.
It's gonna happen.
I
It's
can't
gonna
wait to
happen,
see
bro.
you with your cigar, bro. I don't smoke, but I love to see you with your cigar in your hand. I just want to be in that moment, like, man, this is a cool brother right here. I just want to sit here and just be in this moment right here. Just let this dude just chill and
Dig it.
just be Mark Ross right now, bro.
Oh man, I got you, bro.
I know you got me.
All right, man.
I know you got me.
You already know I do. Oh man, but yeah, man, we're gonna wrap this up. And again, I appreciate you, man, for coming on this show, brother. And for those who want to get in contact with Brother Khalil, he just gave the social media information for you. Reach out to him if you want. And yeah, that's all I got, my man. That's all I got. And yeah, I mean, I would love to have you return, and we can engage on different topics, man. You know what I'm saying? So if you're
Absolutely.
interested in doing that, man, hey, I'll keep you posted, brother. And
let's talk.
Yeah,
we could make it more
let's
positive.
talk,
It doesn't have to be on mental health. It could be whatever. Like, it could be sports.
right.
If you want to talk sports, let's talk sports. Let's
Yeah.
talk about how bad the Milwaukee Bucks are. Now, just playing. Just kidding. It's the New Jersey. I shouldn't say New Jersey. It's the Brooklyn Nets. We are terrible.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt. You ain't getting no argument from me, bro. but the Jazz is doing all right though.
Boo. I ain't no Jazz fan. Get out of here. I go to the Jazz Nets games so I can boo the Jazz, and then my team's terrible. So I don't even know how that works.
Oh my God, that's funny, man. That's funny. Oh man, but man, yeah, we're gonna have to connect again, man. So let's make that happen sometime soon, man.
All right, my brother.
I'll keep in touch with you, and yeah, man. But like I said, I'm a sign off, and to everybody that's listening, thank you for tuning in to the Speaker of Truth with Mark Ross podcast. I'm signing out, and I'll look forward to talking with you guys next week.
We'll be watching.
Take care, my brother.
Peace out, my man.
Sir.
Peace and love.
Peace, brother.
Yes, sir.